Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and in this tutorial we are going to discuss about the basic concepts of data warehouse. So in the previous lectures we have seen the basic introduction to the data warehouse, where we have seen the definition and applications of the data warehouse. So the data warehouse is nothing but a large collection of a business data which is used to help an organization to make the important decisions. So this concept was existed since 1980s, when it was developed to help the transition data from merely powering the operations of fueling the decision support systems that reveal that business intelligence. So in this lecture we are going to see the basic concept involved in the data warehouse. So the first one is the data warehousing. So what do you mean by data warehousing? So the data warehousing is the process of constructing and using the data warehouse. So it is very simple. So the data warehouse is constructed by integrating data from the multiple heterogeneous sources that we have seen in the previous tutorial, that will support analytical reporting, structured and ad hoc queries, and decision making. So the data warehousing involves data cleaning, data integration and its consolidations. So what do you mean by data cleaning, integration and consolidation? That we will see further in this video. So the next topic is usage of data warehouse information. So there are decision support technologies that will help utilize the data which is available in the data warehouse. So these technologies helps executives to use the data warehouse more quickly and more effectively. So they can gather the data and analyze it and take the most important decisions which is based on information which is present in the warehouse. So the information gathered in the warehouse can be used in any of the following domains. So the first one is tuning production strategies. So the production strategies can be well tuned by repositioning the products and managing the product portfolios by comparing the quarterly or yearly sales. So let's consider one production company which has some product. So we can compare the quarterly and yearly sales of that product by performing the various transformation on the historical data which is present in the data warehouse. The next topic is customer analysis. So the customer analysis is done by analyzing the customer's buying preferences, buying time, budget cycles and etc. So let's consider Amazon has a great platform for customer to buy different categories of products. So the Amazon focuses on the customer analysis, by which they discovers the customer needs, their interest and their preferences of the products and analyze them to give better experience to their customer. The next usage is operations analysis. So the data warehousing also helps in customer relationship management and making the environmental corrections. The information also allows us to analyze the business operations. So the different operations which are involved in an organizations that we can analyze to improve the customer relationships and for making the environmental corrections. Our next topic is how to integrate the heterogeneous databases. To integrate the heterogeneous databases, we have the two approaches. So the first one is query driven approach and next one is update driven approach. So we will see them in brief. So the first one is query driven approach. So this is the more traditional approach to integrate the heterogeneous databases. This approach was used to build wrappers and integrators on top of the multiple heterogeneous databases. So these integrators are also known as mediators. So you might ask, what is the actual process of this query driven approach? So in this process, when a query is issued to a client side, a metadata dictionary which translates the query into an appropriate form, or we can say the more simple manner for individual heterogeneous sites involved. After that, these queries are mapped and sent to the local query processor. So the result from the heterogeneous sites are integrated into the global answer set. So this is the process for query driven approach. So but it has many disadvantages. So the first one is query driven approach needs the complex integration and filtering process. Next one is this approach is very inefficient. Efficiency is the most vital part. So we cannot compromise by implementing an inefficient process in the organization. The next disadvantage is it is very expensive for a frequent queries. So the cost effectiveness is very less in case of query driven approach. The next disadvantage is this approach is very expensive for queries that require the aggregations. So where the aggregation is plays the role, then this approach will be very expensive. Next approach for integrating the heterogeneous database is update driven approach. So this is an alternative to the traditional approach. So today's data warehouse system follows update driven approach rather than the traditional approach which we have discussed earlier. So in this approach, the information from multiple sources are integrated in advance and are stored in a warehouse. So this information is available for direct querying and analysis. So in this case, we are gathering the data from different sources and storing it in a warehouse from which we can perform various queries and analysis. So this is more simpler manner. So obviously it will have different advantages over the traditional approach. So this approach provides the higher performance as we are querying on a warehouse. So the data is copied, processed, integrated and annotated and restructured in semantic data source in advance. So as we have already discussed, the data from different sources are getting unified. So it will be integrated in advance, which is a huge benefit over a traditional approach. And the last advantage is query processing does not require an interface to process the data at local sources. As the main source will be the data warehouse, so it does not require an interface for processing the data. So it clearly says that update driven approach is very efficient and cost effective than the traditional approach, which is a query driven approach. Our last topic in today's lecture is functions of data warehouse tools and utilities. So the following are the functions of data warehouse tools and their utilities. So the first one is data extraction. As the name suggests, it involves gathering the data from multiple heterogeneous sources. So let's consider, we will take one example of a banking system. So in this case, a bank which has several branches over the country. So in the data extraction, it will gather all the financial data from each data sources from each branch of a bank, which we will call it as a multiple sources. As we have seen in this example, these are the multiple heterogeneous sources. So in the first process, we are extracting the data. The next process is data cleaning, which involves the finding and correcting the errors in data. So let's consider if the data source has duplicate entries or the entries that do not satisfy some conditions that we are putting on the database. So these errors has to be corrected before getting transformed. So in this stage, we finds and corrects the errors present in the data. The next process is data transformation. So the data transformation involves converting the data from the source format to the warehouse format. So the source format should not be ideal to store in the data warehouse. So it will be transformed into the warehouse format, which will be more efficient for querying and analysis. The next process is data loading. So it involves sorting, summarizing, consolidating and checking the integrity and building indices and partitions. So the data loading is very vital part. So let's consider, we have seen the example of a banking system. So in this case, all the data present in our database will be sorted out, summarized and consolidated in this process. And the last function is refreshing, so which involves updating from the data sources to the warehouse. So these are the different functions of a data warehouse, which we have discussed in brief with some simple example. So you have to understand one thing very clearly. data cleaning and data transformation are the most important steps in improving the quality of the data and the data mining results. So in this lecture, we have discussed the various data warehouse concepts, which was the data warehousing, the usage of data warehouse information, how to integrate the heterogeneous databases. We have seen the query driven approach and update driven approach, and what is the more effective and used nowadays, along with their advantages and disadvantages. And also we have seen the different functions of a data warehouse tools and utilities. In the next lecture, we are going to see the most commonly used terms in the data warehouse. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and also ring the notification bell to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching.